Nigel Farage wants you to believe this is a battle between the people and the establishment, but there's a rather obvious problem with that argument. The establishment hasn't actually turned up. Labour isn't standing, the Conservatives aren't standing, the Liberal Democrats aren't standing, and neither are the Greens. Instead, Nigel Farage is one of 34 candidates on the ballot paper, alongside the likes of Count Binface and William Clouston of the Social Democratic Party. So if Farage wins on Thursday, has he really shocked Westminster? Well, probably not. But that doesn't mean this isn't a hugely important political gamble, because this by-election is about much more than who becomes the MP for Clacton. It's about Farage's political future and the parliamentary investigation that hasn't actually gone away. Let's remind ourselves.
Well, there you go. This is GB News Originals. I'm Emily Carver. Please do give this video a like and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. And do leave a comment. Let me know what you think.
Of why we're here. Farage resigned as the MP for Clacton, triggering this by-election, while he was under investigation by the Parliamentary Standards Watchdog. The investigation concerns a £5 million gift from crypto businessman Christopher Harborne, which Farage received before taking his seat in the Commons. This question being examined is whether that interest should have been declared when Farage entered Parliament. Farage denies any wrongdoing, and it's important to stress that an investigation is not a finding that he has broken any rules. But the investigation was suspended when he resigned. And if he wins on Thursday, it is expected to resume. That is really important. Farage can win this by-election. He can return to Parliament. He can stand on the stage and declare that the people of Clacton have backed him. But the Standards investigation doesn't disappear. It comes back. And if he is ultimately found to have breached the rules and is suspended for more than 10 sitting days, that could trigger a recall petition, potentially leading to yet another by-election. So yes, there is a scenario where Nigel Farage could win and still face the prospect of fighting another Clacton by-election before the end of the year. That is quite some political gamble. And it comes as another senior Reform figure faces scrutiny from Parliament. Richard Tice, Reform's deputy leader, is under investigation by the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards over an alleged failure to declare a relevant interest during a Commons debate. Again, Tice disputes the allegation, and an investigation does not mean that wrongdoing has been established. But politically, it is very awkward, because you've now got the leader of Reform facing a Standards investigation and his deputy facing one too. And that gives Farage critics a very obvious line of attack. They say this by-election was called not to help the people of Clacton, but to help Nigel Farage himself. And Kemi Badenoch has made exactly that argument. In a letter to the people of Clacton, the Conservative leader said, Nigel Farage has called this by-election not to help you, but to help himself. And Badenoch goes further. She has effectively said if the Standards investigation leads to another by-election, the Conservatives will be ready. She has vowed to put forward a serious candidate in that contest. That is significant, because it suggests the Conservatives aren't necessarily running away from Farage. They may simply be waiting for the right moment to fight him. And there is a political logic to that. Why give Nigel Farage the huge national contest he wants? Why put a Conservative candidate into Clacton alongside Labour and the Liberal Democrats and turn this into a week of coverage? That would give Nigel Farage exactly what he wants: a stage, a national audience, and the chance to portray himself as the outsider taking on the entire political establishment. Instead, the major parties have effectively said, we're not playing. They have described the resignation and by-election as a political stunt with no bearing on the underlying Standards inquiry. And that has left Farage fighting a very unusual contest. 34 candidates, including Count Binface and William Clouston of the Social Democratic Party. Now, no one expects Farage to struggle to win in Clacton. The constituency is his political territory. The polling suggests he is comfortably ahead. The real question is what size majority he gets and what he does with it, because Farage will undoubtedly say that if he wins, the establishment has been defeated. He'll say they've ran scared. They didn't have the stomach for the fight, and politically, he will have a point. The major parties chose not to put themselves on the ballot. But has he actually shocked the establishment? I don't think so, because everyone knows Farage is expected to win. There is no great surprise in Nigel Farage winning a by-election in Clacton. The bigger question is whether he can turn that victory into something much bigger. And that is where the problem begins, because nationally Reform's momentum has taken a knock. The party has been riding high in the polls. Farage was dominating the political conversation. But recent Ipsos polling puts Labour on 28% and Reform on 25%, a 3-point lead for Andy Burnham's Labour. One poll doesn't suggest the political landscape has changed. Reform remains a major force, but it does show the extraordinary momentum the party enjoyed earlier this year has begun to fade. And then there's Farage himself. His personal favourability ratings are even more challenging. Recent YouGov figures put him on just 22% favourability against 68% unfavourable. That's a net favourability rating of -46, the lowest rating of any major Westminster Party leader in that polling. So Clacton could give Farage a very useful political victory, but it doesn't solve his national problem. If he wins, expect a victory speech to be very straightforward. The establishment ran away. The political class didn't want to fight reform. The people of Clacton have spoken, and Farage will be able to point to the result as proof that his political project remains alive. By Friday morning, the Standards investigation is still there.
The high-stakes gamble of Nigel Farage and the Clacton by-election. Nigel Farage wants the country to believe that the political arena is locked in a classic struggle between the everyday citizen and the established political elite. But there is a rather glaring paradox unfolding in the coastal town of Clacton right now. The establishment has simply declined to step onto the field. In an extraordinary turn of events, neither Labour, nor the Conservatives, nor the Liberal Democrats, nor the Green Party have fielded candidates for this contest. Instead, the leader of Reform UK finds himself on a ballot paper alongside 33 rival candidates, dominated by satirical figures like Count Binface and representatives of fringe movements. If Farage secures his victory on polling day, can it truly be branded as a shockwave through the corridors of Westminster? The short answer is almost certainly no. Yet dismissing this event as mere theatre would be a grave error.
This by-election represents one of the most perilous political gambles of his entire career, carrying implications that extend far beyond the borders of Essex and reaching directly into the heart of parliamentary governance. Before we dive deep into the intricate machinery of this contest and uncover what is really taking place behind closed doors, make sure to hit that subscribe button for Britain Underneath so you never miss an insider breakdown of British politics. Take a deep breath, settle in, and let us explore the hidden dynamics shaping the nation today. Please consider supporting the channel by subscribing, as it truly helps us bring you more in-depth analysis. To truly understand why we have arrived at this moment, we must retrace our steps to the circumstances surrounding Farage vacating his seat in the House of Commons.
The decision to step down was triggered not by a sudden change of heart, but by an intensifying probe led by the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards. At the centre of this inquiry lies a £5 million gift received from the cryptocurrency investor Christopher Harborne prior to Farage taking his seat in Parliament. The fundamental question being probed by parliamentary authorities is whether this massive financial support should have been formally registered under the Code of Conduct governing elected members. Farage has firmly maintained that he acted entirely within the rules, stressing that the funds were intended for private security provisions before his election. Crucially, an ongoing investigation does not equate to a formal finding of guilt or wrongdoing.
However, under standard parliamentary procedure, the moment an on-sitting member resigns, the Standards probe is automatically paused. By forcing a fresh vote, Farage effectively hit the pause button on the inquiry, but that pause is strictly temporary. If Farage wins the contest, as most political observers and polling metrics suggest he will undoubtedly walk out onto the victory stage to declare that the electorate of Clacton has given him an unassailable mandate. Yet the reality waiting for him back in London is far less celebratory. The moment he takes the oath once again, the Parliamentary Standards watchdog will resume its investigation exactly where it left off. This creates a fascinating tactical vulnerability. Should the Commissioner ultimately conclude that rules were breached, leading to a parliamentary suspension of 10 sitting days or more, it would automatically trigger a recall petition under UK law. If 10% of eligible voters in Clacton sign that petition, the seat will be declared vacant all over again, opening the door to a secondary, far more brutal by-election before the year draws to a close. Farage could find himself winning today, only to face an even bigger fight tomorrow. This legal and political tightrope is not limited to the leader alone, as secondary figures within Reform UK find themselves navigating similar turbulence. Richard Tice, the party deputy leader, has also come under scrutiny regarding formal declarations during parliamentary proceedings. While Tice equally rejects any suggestion of impropriety, the political optics are undeniably awkward for a party that built its core brand on exposing the lapses of mainstream politicians. Opponents have wasted no time turning these parallel inquiries into a primary point of attack, framing the entire Clacton exercise not as a crusade for local residents, but as a calculated manoeuvre designed to insulate party leadership from official oversight. The Conservative leadership has seized upon this narrative with remarkable sharpness. Kemi Badenoch addressed a direct message to local voters, asserting that the contest was manufactured for personal strategy rather than community service. More importantly, Badenoch signalled a long-term game plan. By choosing not to enter a candidate into a crowded ballot paper alongside novelty contenders, the major parties avoided granting Farage the massive, media-dominated spectacle he thrives upon. They effectively denied him a national television debate platform and a traditional left versus right narrative. Instead, the major parties have chosen to save their resources, explicitly warning that if a parliamentary finding triggers a formal recall petition later in the year, they will descend upon Clacton with full party machinery and a formidable candidate. This strategic retreat by the mainstream establishment leaves Farage fighting a remarkably peculiar campaign. On one hand, his personal connection to Clacton remains strong, and the local demographics have historically leaned heavily toward his political message. Winning the seat itself is not the primary hurdle. The true test lies in the size of his majority and the national narrative he can extract from the result. A diminished turnout or a narrow margin of victory would severely undercut his claim that a popular revolution is underway. Conversely, even a sweeping victory in Essex cannot entirely mask the broader national headwinds currently facing Reform UK. Nationally, the explosive polling momentum that Reform UK enjoyed in previous months has begun to show signs of stabilisation and slight contraction. Recent surveys show Labour maintaining a competitive edge under Andy Burnham, while public favourability ratings for Farage himself present a complex picture across different demographic groups. Net popularity scores suggest that while his core support remains fiercely dedicated, broader public perception across the wider electorate remains sharply divided. A local win in a friendly constituency does not automatically translate into a national breakthrough.
especially when political opponents are deliberately playing a long-term game of endurance. As we continue to dissect these developments, please take a moment to subscribe to Britain Underneath. Your support is vital in keeping this channel independent and allowing us to deliver sophisticated political analysis week after week. If you appreciate mature, unbiased breakdowns of complex UK affairs, do hit that subscribe button right now and stay tuned with us until the very end of the video. What we are witnessing in Clacton is a masterclass in political manoeuvring, where every move on the surface hides a far more complex strategy underneath. Farage has attempted to frame this election as a direct referendum on establishment overreach, gambling that a fresh victory will grant him political immunity and public vindication. However, the decision by mainstream parties to step back has altered the battlefield entirely. Rather than giving him a dramatic arena to defeat his rivals, they have left him running against the clock and the inevitable return of parliamentary scrutiny. When the final ballot papers are counted, the immediate headline will likely announce a Farage victory, complete with a spirited speech claiming the political class ran away from a fight. Yet the structural realities of Westminster will remain entirely unchanged by sunrise. The Parliamentary Standards Inquiry will reactivate. The legal framework governing member declarations will apply as strictly as before, and the threat of a subsequent recall petition will hang over the constituency. Farage may have secured the current round, but the broader contest for long-term authority is only just beginning.